What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Anime Princess, and today I want to try and answer the question on everyone's mind, which is, with 3.23, is Spark finally dead? To put some context into this discussion, I want to talk about a couple patches ago where Spark received a fairly serious nerf of 25% to its base projectile speed. Going into Crucible League, a lot of people said, losing 25% of your projectile speed is going to be the nail in the coffin for Spark. So not a lot of people league started Spark. We played it on stream. It was a very fun league. And then going to 3.22, there were no changes at all, and Spark just popped off. We had a really popular Leaguestart guide on the channel, and then also everyone in the community seemed to be playing Spark as well. We had pro players such as I'm Exile and Ben, both respectively playing Poison Spark as well as Trickster Spark. A lot of people were aura stacking. Spark was front and center. So, obviously that 25% base projectile speed nerf did not kill Spark in hindsight. But all of this popularity is going to put Spark front and center, and then GGG decided to nerf it again. So let's go over the current iteration of nerfs for 3.23. This slide is going to cover the challenges we may face in a league start scenario with Spark in comparison to past leagues. So the biggest change is once we hit level 20, quality 20 on our Spark gem, we will no longer have 39% increased projectile speed. And this means our projectiles will be 39% slower at the absolute start of the game if we do no other changes to projectile speed. However, there are other options here, so don't be too worried yet. The next issue we'll face is there are no longer any helmet enchants available, so we can no longer buy 3 projectiles on a helmet base. However, we will get 2 projectiles naturally just from the Spark gem, so overall we're losing 39% projectile speed, 1 projectile. And there is some alt tech that I wasn't using on Inquisitor, I was using it on my Trickster League starter. It is having Vortex on left click and using the gloves Algor Mortis. Now Vortex is no longer instant cast, so you can't just left click that. It's not gonna it's not gonna work. So that was a way of making enemies in melee range take like 20 to I think 35% increased damage, and that's just gone. So just bear that in mind. Now I want to demonstrate how we can overcome these changes, and the easiest way will be to pull up the Spark content playlist, which is meant to hold your hand from the League Start guide all the way till the league's over. So we can just look at the day 1 video, which gives some advice on stuff to do on day 1. And it also has my path of building for my character for last day 1. My character's level 83, has 200,000 damage. We did a bunch of heists to get here. But going into next league, this character is going to have 40% less projectile speed. So let's fix that. We're going to want to drop one of these supports, most likely increase critical strikes. So we're going to go from 100, essentially 200,000 down to 172,000 by using faster projectiles. However, we are gaining 69% projectile speed, and we only lost 39 from the skill gem. So that is, we're gaining net 30 projectile speed from what this character would be last league. And the damage loss for a hit would be 198 divided by 172. So we're losing 15% of our hit damage, but we're gaining 30% faster projectile than it would have been last league pre-nerfs, because this is just giving us so much projectile speed. So it will feel a lot better, and realistically we're not even going to lose the full 15%, because with faster projectile speeds we are occasionally going to have projectiles go all the way, hit a wall, come back, hit the enemy twice. In that case you're doubling your damage. So on a day 1 this looks perfectly fine. But let's go look at a day 2 to see how that will affect it. So let's look at the day 2 character. This character now has 500,000 damage and it's up to level 91. And it's going to be harder to simply put on faster projectiles because this character is now fully ascended. And once you get Inevitable Judgment, your crits will pierce enemy monster resistance, which means we really want our crit chance to be 100%. So we can't just take off increased critical strikes, unfortunately. We're going to lose a lot of damage if we do that. However, once you get into day 2, the tree is pretty much finished, and you can even go into clusters, and clusters are very cheap, and they actually do give you projectile speed, thankfully. So this one's Streamlined Repeater, and this costs 3 Shuddering Fossils to hit. It's very, very easy to craft, and it gives us 20% projectile speed and a lot of damage. We can just look into that right here. So yeah, Streamlined Repeater, 3 Shuddering Fossils. However, what we really want to hit is Streamlined Aerodynamics. This is unfortunately a little bit harder to hit, but it's the same fossil. It's just shuddering. It takes 18 tries. And what this gives us is, well, it gives us projectile speed on Streamline, but also even more projectile speed on Aerodynamics. But the key part of Aerodynamics is it gives you Pierce, because if you do want to drop a gem, the worst gem in here is Pierce, but we do need to have a little bit of Pierce just to make the build feel good. So, you know, if you want really fast projectiles, you can keep using this. And we go from 547 with Pierce down to 485. So what is that? So that would only be a 12% or a 13% damage loss taken off Pierce for faster projectiles. But you would need to have a source of Pierce, which would either be with the slightly more expensive medium cluster, or you could get it on your gloves, the Eldritch Implicit on the gloves. You can also craft Pierce on your gloves. It's a prefix craft. So just, I would go for 2 Pierce probably. So maybe the easiest is Glove Implicit and prefix on the glove. And then you're good. And then you can use faster projectiles. And you know, over time, you're going to find other ways to get projectile speed. And then you can take off faster projectiles because you don't want to have faster projectiles permanently, since as you can see, this gem gives us an increase in projectile speed, but it only gives us an increase in projectile damage. And all the best supports are going to have a more multiplier to our damage. But as you can see early on, even with this one thing that doesn't give us a more damage multiplier, we're losing like, you know, 10 to 15% damage, and we are gaining a lot of projectile speed. So this would be how to overcome it and make the build still feel very good through the first few days. So it's also worth mentioning, there is the Widow Hail Bow plus Rearguard Quiver option on a Leaguestart. This will give us some spell block, attack block, projectile speed. We'll no longer be able to use Tempest Shield. Now, you're losing a ton of damage on both your weapon slots with this, so I am very skeptical that this is going to be better than faster projectile support, but I figured I should mention it here at least. I think the Synthesized Quiver with crit multi and projectile speed and like 3 good implicits is going to start to look a lot better, because that will just solve all the projectile speed issues, although that's like has nothing to do with budget Sparkplay at all. Moving on to late game changes. So Ashes is the most obvious change. It's losing mana reservation efficiency, which is going to hurt squeezing in all those auras. Replica Dragonfang may become better depending on the transfigured gems we get. As for transfigured gems, we want to keep an eye out for Anomalous Blood and Sand, see if that's coming back. Now, I know GGG said there's going to be no transfigured auras. However, Blood and Sand is technically a stance. So, you know, it is possible that this is going to come back, you know, fingers crossed. This was a source of 20% increased projectile speed. However, it's very good with Ashes because Ashes bumps this up to 50%. Aside from Anonymous Blood and Sand, though, who knows what else could be coming through Transfigured Gems that hasn't been announced yet. So we'll just have to let GGG drip feed us that content. Hopefully something exciting pops up. My conclusions are that Spark is definitely still a league startable option. However, it's not a racing build. It hasn't been a racing build for quite some time. And with the nerfs to projectile speed, it's not going to become one anytime soon. If you want a League Start Spark, I would go with the Crit Spark League Starter Guide here with the Inquisitor version. Now, I'm not going to put out a full 1 hour remake to the guide for 3.23. I mean, this is largely still completely relevant, except for obviously the stuff we talked about in this video. And I think I can cover that in a short video update. So yeah, I would go with this version. If you're thinking about Trickster, I'm not sure I could recommend this on a league start because the Vortex plus Algor Mortis was a really, really cheap way to get damage. Now, later on, you don't even want to use this. Like, for example, the builds down here, like I think maybe with this very budget Crit Spark Trickster, I might have been using it, but like very quickly, I know down here I'm definitely not using the Algor Mortis tech because it's not ideal. You want to do damage to everything, not just the thing on the little vortex circle. But it's a really good crutch early game. So I think CI Spark is an extremely good second build of the league, and it may no longer be powerful enough to get through a league start. So that would be my recommendation. Go with the Crit Spark Inquisitor if you want a league start Spark, and if you want to league start some sort of racer build and then play Spark, you could easily just save up and go for a Trickster Spark, and I think you'd be really happy with that. So that's my thoughts on the league. You can look out for hopefully an updated Crit Spark video soon. Planning some more generic videos. As for my current plans for League Start, it's up in the air. I do have a friend that wants to Orbot for me, so we might try some sort of magic finding duo on a League Start. That would be fun. I hope that pans out. But yeah, either way, I'll see you guys in the next video, and hopefully I'll see you guys on Twitch for the League Start. All right, peace.